We've got some major changes in the Ohio housing market as home prices continue to fall in many areas, including a zip code like 43202 right here in central Ohio, where home prices are now down 4.1% year over year. And this is not a one off. If I look around the Buckeye State, I continue to see more zip codes with falling home prices. So another one is something like 43777 in Roseville, where home prices are down 8% year over year. Make no mistake, folks, we are definitely seeing changes by the week in the Ohio housing market. And I want to welcome you to this evening's live. My name is Jason Ferrier. I am a realtor. I'm an investor here in Central Ohio. I am the Ohio housing nerd. And what better way to spend it than with the housing nerds on this rainy night in Ohio? So we're going to dive in and dissect the housing market throughout the Buckeye State. We're going to look at inventory. We're going to look at, obviously, prices. We're going to look at price cuts. We're going to look and talk about some property taxes even. And it's your chance to learn about the Ohio housing market if you're looking to maybe buy, sell, invest, or you're just on the sidelines kind of wondering what's going on. This is for you. And if you have a zip code you want me to analyze, drop it in the comments, and I'm happy to get to it. I've got some pretty powerful data here to review, so we can get into it and find out what's happening in your local market. What's up, TH2? How you doing? Good evening to you. Glad to see you. Glad to see you on here. Yeah, so like if I dive in to some of these markets, it's pretty eye-opening what's going on. So like we talked about 43777, but there's some other ones out there. Like look inside Columbus Metro, and I'm kind of seeing this overall, but like 43232 is now down year over year in home prices. And, it's been, obviously, there's been a lot of months where home prices in many areas, just like this zip code, have been increasing. I mean, they were up 17% year over year at one point, but now it's falling. And it's, negative year over year. So, and it's not everywhere though. It's definitely not everywhere. Like if I look at Columbus again, in the surrounding area, and look at an area like 43054, which is New Albany, home prices are up 2.2% year over year. So it's not like prices have crashed by any means throughout Ohio, but there are a lot of zip codes and more zip codes where I'm seeing home prices fall. No doubt about it. But what I'm going to do first, before we really get into this, is I'm going to look at the state overall. Then we're going to look at some county stuff, and that'll kind of give us a picture as to what's happening. So if I just take a step back and look at inventory. So we were talking about prices for a second, but let's look at inventory of homes for sale in the U.S. overall, and then we'll dive down to Ohio, and that can kind of give you a picture of what's happening. The inventory of homes for sale is actually up in every state throughout the U.S. There really isn't a state where we have fewer homes for sale than we did last year at a state level. Now, when you look at a county level look of homes for sale, you can see the picture changes, right? You've got markets where the brown counties are where you actually are down year over year in inventory, which is crazy. There are some areas, even in Ohio, that we'll get to where you have fewer homes for sale than you did last year. But overall, the country has more homes than they did last year for sale. And inventory will really drive the home prices. And, that's really what drives it, is because it's all about supply and demand. And then, if I look at inventory from a standpoint versus 2019, pre-COVID, the picture changes again. So the Northeast, the Midwest, the North have been more resilient with home prices because, quite frankly, we've seen fewer homes for sale versus pre-COVID. And that's really that demarcation line that a lot of analysts use to say, hey, how is the housing market doing? Where we're seeing home prices soften, correct, sometimes outright free fall is where inventory has exploded past 2019 levels. So if you come down here into Florida and you look at inventory versus 2019, you can see some of these areas and counties in Florida are up, 50%, 100%, 90% versus 2019. That means home prices are probably falling there. Same thing with Texas. But if you're in the Midwest, you're not seeing that story really play out as much. And then if I look at home prices overall, just what's happening, in the United States, you could see again more pain down in the Florida market and in the Texas market, more blue, which is where home prices are still resilient in the Midwest, the Northeast, and the North. But you came here for Ohio information, and it's all about Ohio on the Ohio Housing Nerd. So I'll zoom in here to Ohio, and I'll kind of show you what's happening on a county level look. So from a county level look in Ohio, when you look at inventory versus last year, the brown counties have fewer homes for sale than last year. The green counties have more homes for sale than last year. And again, I'll keep mentioning it over and over, inventory is the key. So look at Crawford County, for instance. They have 23% fewer homes than they had in last year. And that's crazy, right? When you think about it, like they have fewer homes. But when you look at some of these other markets, like look at Delaware County, they're up 38%. Look at Franklin County, up 25% in inventory versus last year. Fayette County, up 63%. So they definitely have more inventory. And again, if you're joining us, hit the like button, put your zip code in the comments below, even if it's after the live, and then I will put it on a list to get to it on the next Housing Nerd video. Pike County, 51% more homes for sale. I mean, that means inventory has exploded past 2019 levels. And again, more inventory, usually lower prices. Licking County, where I am, 13% more homes for sale. So that's what I'm seeing from an inventory standpoint versus last year. When I look at it versus 2019, there are some counties like Pickaway, Franklin, Marion County, Fayette County, where there are more homes than you had in 2019. And that quite simply means you'll probably see some home price pain in those areas. I mean, look at Hocking County, 63% more homes for sale. And if I dive into some more detail here, you could see that in Hocking County, you got 119 listings right now. Folks, that's more homes for sale in Hocking County than they've had in the last decade. Actually, in July, I guess, of 2024, they had 122 homes. But it's dang near a decade high of home inventory right now in Hocking County. Now let's look at prices and see how that's trending, if that's changed anything yet. Yeah, look at prices in Hocking County, down 0.7%. And they've been down for months. I mean, look at this. They were down 2% in May, 2.5% in July, 1.8% in August. I mean, the hits just keep on coming, right? Down 0.7%. So Hocking County is an example where you are seeing home price decline. And I call it tanking because look at this. Back in March of 2021, home prices were up 22% year over year. I mean, that's just insane, right? But now it's come down to earth, and the reality is much different than what we were seeing before. Certainly during COVID, right? If I look at, let's say, we looked at Hocking, let's look at Fayette County and see if that's doing anything else, or what's that doing compared to 2019 and with inventory. Well, we know they're up with inventory. They've got 79 homes for sale. It's not a decade high, but it's approaching it. So again, some of these counties are really growing with home inventory. Now let's look at prices and find out what's happening in Fayette County. Up 3%, but it's definitely not up 14, 15% like it was during COVID. Let me see. Let's look at Franklin County. Inventory versus 2019 up 6%. So they do have more homes for sale than they did pre-COVID. And let's look at home prices, only up 1.1%. Here's what's crazy. You ready for this? Look at this. Since 2020, since before, right when COVID started, basically, prices in Franklin County are up 50%. 50%. But if I look since 2022, they're only up 8%. So you really got a decade of home price appreciation in like 2.5 years. I mean, COVID wrecked Ohio home prices, wrecked them to the upside, right? But wrecked it for future buyers. And it's made unaffordability just skyrocket. And, I don't have to tell you guys anything. I mean, home prices are unhinged and very hard to find an affordable property that, is not tore up, right? Or is not like a bad flip. And speaking of bad flips, I'm seeing that in a lot of areas inside the outer belts, inside the metros of these larger cities of Ohio. I'm seeing prices and inventory. I'm seeing inventory rise and prices fall inside of inside the city limits. Like look at 43219, prices are down 0.4%. Look at 43207, prices are down 1.3% year over year. 43223 down 0.5%. I mean, 43228 is barely up, basically flat. 43202, I talked about that one at the beginning, down 4%. 43215 down 1.3%. Show you my Canva thing. Sorry about that. I mean, look at 43013 down 1.5%. So like some of these zip codes are really struggling inside the city, but it's not just Central Ohio, right? Like if I scroll up and look at Cleveland, same story's playing out. Look at Cleveland. Look at 44103, down 6.6% year over year. And I mean, that is startling to me when you're thinking about how home prices have just ran up like crazy. Look at 44108. Down 1.7% in Cleveland, right? 44110 down 1.9%. And you just see some of the carnage. 44102 near Cleveland, right? In Cuyahoga County, I imagine. I think it's Cuyahoga County, down 2%. So like, if I look at it from a county basis, if I look at home prices, they look solid, right? I mean, Cuyahoga County up 5%, Lorain County up 4.5%. Okay. But then when you dive into that zip code level, you can really see the difference. Really see the difference. And so, yeah, we're looking at all this tonight. And this is for you, the Ohioan, to find out what's happening with the housing market. All right. Got some requests here. Timothy Norman, how you doing? 45869. You got it. 45869. Let's do inventory first. So I always start with inventory because that kind of tells the story of what's happening. Wow. So is this a zip code you wanted? I just want to double check. 45869. Yeah. Yeah, Timothy, look at this. This is nuts. You've got 71% fewer homes on the market right now than you did last year. So if you want prices to come down, you need more homes for sale. That's how that works, right? Because you got more supply. As long as demand doesn't spike, prices theoretically should come down if you have more homes. If you have fewer homes on the market, like you have, it looks like, then that's going the opposite direction. Prices will probably remain sticky. However, it kind of also depends on how many listings you have, because some of these counties in Ohio, some of these zip codes, they don't have a ton of listings. But let me look at the active inventory count. Yeah, you've only got 2 listings, it says. So there's not a whole lot going on there, right? As far as active inventory. So it's not hard to move it 70% when there's only a couple listings. But nonetheless, let's look since 2019, you're down 50%. So you don't have as many homes as you had on the market even during COVID, or before COVID rather. And if I look at the active inventory count again, like you just don't have a lot of listings there. I mean, your max is like 12 listings. So you probably don't have a lot of choices out there, I'm guessing, with homes. Let me look at home prices though. You're up 5.8% in that zip code. 869458869. So that's in Minster, right? Minster, Ohio. I just like to kind of type that in on another tab so I can understand where some of these zip codes are. But yeah, you're up nearly 6% in home prices, and they haven't fallen year over year at all in the last decade, basically. I mean, you got to go all the way back to 2013 to see a home price decline. Home prices have just continued to go up there. Like, let's look since 2020. Home prices in the last 5 years are up 51% in that zip code. 51%. I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know. It's unhinged, right? Typical home value is $300,000, basically, 296,866. So this gives us the typical value. Now, typical is the 35th through 65th percentile, meaning it takes out the top end and it takes out the low end to give us that middle range of homes. That's how they do that. But I mean, look how home prices have just continued to go up. Like before COVID, you were like around what, $191,000? Now 296. So 100 grand. Literally 100 grand in 5 years. Unbelievable, right? Let's look at since 2022. Well, since 2022, you're up 17%. So home prices there have just gone parabolic. But with only a few listings on the market, a handful, it's probably, I wouldn't think prices are going to come down at all anytime soon unless you see a lot more homes enter the market. I mean, it looks like you just have nothing to choose from. So hopefully that helps. But if you're a buyer, you're just going to have to see a lot more inventory in order for prices to come down, or you're going to have to hunt off market, or you're going to have to look in another area where there are homes, unless they build a bunch of new ones there all of a sudden, right? Or unless a bunch of people put their homes on the market. If you're a seller in that zip code, then you probably are able to command a market price pretty easily, I would think. Like, as long as you price it somewhat competitively, you probably are going to sell the home if it's a good home, I would think. So, but sellers are probably in control there in that zip code. But thanks for asking about this zip code. That's great. Thanks, Timothy. And thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. Love in 2 limes. How are you doing this evening? How did I know you'd ask about Union County? 43064. You're in a tough market. Look at active inventory. That's crazy. Let me first look at the county level for Union. So active inventory in Union County is up 20% year over year. and active inventory versus pre-COVID is down 11%. So you are gaining inventory, no doubt about it, in the county, just on a county look. But if I go back to that zip code, you actually have more homes for sale right now than you did in 2019. So you're growing inventory, which is good. Year over year, this is a weird one. Year over year, you're actually down in the number of homes for sale. So it's like you must have, I have to look at the inventory count. You must have exploded inventory at one point. And then, yeah, then it dropped. Yeah, that's what happened. So you had, let's see, last year at this time, you had 76 homes on the market. Now you've got 70 in that zip code. So you're gaining inventory, I guess is my point, although you're losing it compared to last year, which I haven't seen in many markets. Mostly it's like, up year over year, down versus pre-COVID. You're actually more, you have more than you did pre-COVID, but you're down year over year. It's goofy. But you are, I guess, overall, you're gaining inventory, which is good. And you actually kind of have, you go back in time, you haven't had this many homes for sale in a while. But there's a lot of new construction there, right? So that new construction is going to add to inventory, and it's in a market, I think, where you are, it was kind of undeveloped completely, right? And so because of that, you've seen a lot of new construction come in and add to inventory numbers or create inventory that was never there. That's my assumption of what's happening around you based on, I've been there many times in that kind of New California area. But let's look at prices and see how those are doing. Home price year over year, up 1.1%. So it's not down, but it's not skyrocketing anymore either. I mean, 1.1% home price growth is like, it's kind of low. It's historically, if I look, you go back in time and look, there really wasn't a time going almost back to what, 2012, when you had just 1.1% year over year of home price growth. So the growth's definitely slowing. Let's look at since March of 2020, 44% up in 5 years. Wow. Now let's look at since the peak. You're only up 7.6% since 2022. This is like one of those things. This is probably one of the most shocking stats that I see in the home prices right now. And it's not just in Ohio. I did a live today for the nation, like on my national channel. And we were seeing the same thing in a lot of areas where home prices went up in 2 years by 30, 40%. And then since 2022, they've gone up, but as you can see, they've only gone up 7.6% in 3 years. So you really got a decade of price appreciation in 2021, 2020 and 2021. Again, COVID wrecked the housing market. I don't think people really understand how bad it got or how much home prices ran up in just 2 years. It wasn't like it was 5 years. It was more like it was 2 years. So if I look at, let me see, the typical value of a house. Now, this is a typical value. This isn't the top tier, because I think you're in that top tier, right? If I remember right. This is the middle value, but it gives us a gauge. So right now, $549,000 is what they're saying for the typical value. But if I look back, you can see it's kind of like stagnant right through here. It didn't really climb that much. And that's what I'm saying. Like over the last 2 years or so, not a ton of growth. Where all the growth happened is right here. Look at this. $396,000 back in September of 2020. And in September of 2021, it was 451. Holy cow. So you got, what's that? $55,000 in home price growth from just 1 year. Then look at the next year, 451 to 508. Another 50 grand in 1 year. Then it went from 508 to 523. Didn't grow as much. And then 523 to 543, 20,000. And then 543 to 549. So not near as much growth. Although if you go back a couple of these years, $20,000 in a year is still a lot. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like you saw through here where you're up $55,000 in 1 year. That's crazy. Crazy. Anyway, that's kind of what's happening in your zip code. It's even if I look at this data every day, which I do, it always amazes me how that happened in some of these areas of Ohio. No wonder people can't afford a house in Ohio. And you couple that with the property taxes, forget about it. People are like, man, it's expensive. And Ohio is supposed to be affordable, right? But thanks for for checking in, Loving Two Limes. Good to see you on here. Oh, you had something. I wish I could sort my comments on here by viewer or by commenter so that, I can see them all from one person. Good. There seems to be a lot more for sale in our neighborhood lately, which is New California Hills and New California Woods and New California Reserve. Good. I'm glad you're seeing more homes on the market, right? Weren't you selling and buying or something, if I remember right? Or I don't know if you're buying or not, but I thought you were selling. But yeah, great to see you. Let me see if you made any other comments. Yep, lots of new construction. Yeah, tons of new construction. And that's competing with the existing homes, right? And home builders now, depending on what builder you go to, some of them are giving away crazy interest rates, although not as much in Ohio as they are in Florida. Like if you're looking for a really great deal on a house in Florida right now, I would think it's prime shopping season right now. People are cutting prices left and right there, tons of new builds. Ohio, some new builds, not near like there are in Texas, Florida, Arizona. Even Indianapolis has a lot of new builds. Let's see what else you had to say. Seems like a year ago, prices up. They seem to be dropping a bit now. Yeah, they're just leveling off, right? Much needed correction. But I think the problem is if you bought last year, right, or you bought 2 years ago, your home hasn't really appreciated that much. I think that's what people are running into. But real estate is a long game, right? It's not made to get rich quick. Unless you're flipping a home and you do it right, I guess. All right, let me see what else we got here. I want to go out and do a video in New California. I want to do that. I think I will. That's an exciting area. A lot of development. That Jerome Village, right? That whole market up there. Got Timothy. Racer 2099. How you doing? Hola. From Cuyahoga County. Hoping to get into Medina County. Okay. Let's see. I can do a county. I can do that. So if I look at Cuyahoga County, active inventory is up 12% year over year. So you have more homes, 12% more homes on the market than you did last year. At least you're not down. That's good. But compared to 2019, you're down 37%. So you have 37% fewer homes than you did in 2019. You got in the county, there's 2,412 homes. In 2019, there were 3,843 homes. So you have a lot fewer choices out there in Cuyahoga County. overall? Obviously, it's, very specific to the market, the subdivision, and all that. But this gives you a general picture. Let's look at prices. Home prices up 5% in Cuyahoga County. So they haven't crashed. I mean, home prices are still up 5%. Let's look at it since 2020. 53% up since 2020. And since 2022, up 17%. So you did get a lot of growth in 2020 and 2021 with home prices in Cuyahoga County, but it also has been growing the last, 3 years too. What's that? 5 point something percent growth year over year for the last 3 years. That's Cuyahoga County. And then you said Medina County, right? Medina County. Active inventory in Medina County up 11%. So they have more homes there too than last year. Let's look at 2019, down 50% in the number of homes for sale in the whole county. And if I look at the count, you've got 252 listings right now. I mean, you're kind of increasing inventory, but it's still way low. I mean, back again, it's unbelievable what COVID did to this. Like, look at 2019, you had 497 houses to choose from. Back in 2016, you had 685 homes to choose from. And now 252. Just a lot less choice, a lot fewer options on the market. And that's going to usually make prices continue to be sticky. And this is for the county again, right? We're not looking at necessarily a zip code level. Let's look at it since 2019. Yeah, 50% down. I think I just looked at that. So that's not great in Medina County. Now let's look at prices. How are they doing? Home prices up 4%. Okay. They're not coming down. I mean, the growth is coming down, but the prices haven't dropped yet. So it's almost like you compare this to inflation, right? People are like, hey, inflation is now, I'm just going to make this up, is supposed to be 2%, or that's the Fed's target, which is relative. And so does that mean that prices are actually falling? No, it just means they're not rising as much. That's what's going on here with home prices. Then I'm seeing this in a lot of areas of the country, not just even Ohio. Let's look at home prices since 2020. Wow, got to double check that, but that's right. Up 50% in Medina County. Typical value. Yeah, look at this. In COVID, like right before like September of 2019, homes there, the typical house, like the middle priced house, not the middle priced house, but the house that's priced in the middle range, not super expensive, not super cheap. $223,000 in September of 2019, now $347,000. See, most people think realtors are like, that's awesome. No, it's not good at all. I hate seeing this. I'd rather home prices go up like the normal amount, like 2-3% a year in home prices, not 50% or 15% or whatever. I mean, you went from 232 to 273 in 1 year, right? Well, let's start here. 223 in September of 2019. You only went up in that first year. You only went up what, $10,000. But then that next year you went up $40,000. Then you went up $30,000. That's just not sustainable, and that's why home prices are the growth is slowing in the price gains, but they haven't crashed. At least not in these counties yet. Something I didn't look in the other counties. It just, sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. I guess there's really no method to my madness here. But look at the price reductions. 18% of homes have had a price cut in Medina County. What's crazy, if you go back in time, look at the price cuts back in 2017. 26% of listings had a price cut. 2018, you had 28% of listings had a price cut. Overall in the nation, it's like around 22, 23%. So people are cutting prices, but there are actually more price cuts back way before COVID than there are now. That market must be really strong. People really must want to live in Medina County. I don't know a lot about it though. So, geez. And if you can, when you ask about a zip code or an area, tell me what you're trying to do. Like, hey, I'm trying to buy, or I'm investing, or I'm selling, or whatever. Just because I'm curious. And by the way, if you need a realtor in Ohio, I can help you find one. If you need a realtor in Central Ohio, like Columbus surrounding area, Licking County, Knox County, Fairfield County, Franklin County, and like the surrounding Central Ohio market, give me a call. I treat my customers like gold. So let's see. Racer 2009, same guy, right? Olmsted Falls, hoping to time it right and sell while my area is still in demand, but buy in Medina or Wadsworth. Well, I didn't look at the zip code, but just from what I saw, it looks like both counties right now are doing well. But let me look at 44138. I don't want to shortchange it. 44138. Yeah, I type like an old buddy duddy. Let's look at inventory year over year. Yeah, so you're up 15% in that zip code where you're selling. Let's look since 2019. You're down 60%. So when you say time it right, you probably have an opportunity right now, and I would think in the near future, to do well on a house sale there, as long as your home's priced right. That's the key. You can't go crazy with pricing. I wouldn't overprice it by any means, but if it's, depending on what your goals are, if you price the thing right, you should be able to sell it relatively quickly, I would think. But pricing, it's key, right? You got to price it right. The problem is where you want to go, at least the county level look in Medina, it looked like it's just the same market. So and I don't know what your interest rate is right now, but if you're trading a 3% rate for a 7% rate, unless you have to move, you may want to rethink that. And, you may want to move and you just say, hey, housing, or forget it. I'm going to move anyway. Okay. But think about it and also consider keeping your current home, whatever you do. I talked to somebody this morning that is keeping their current home and renting. They're going to move into an apartment, keep their current home and rent it out and just sit on the sidelines until they find the exact property they want. Okay. Because they don't want to give up their 3% rate. I just hate seeing people give up that 3% rate. Let's look at prices there. If you haven't noticed, interest rates are still kind of high. The 10-year is just very sticky near 4%. And I don't think mortgage rates are going to come down much at all over the next 12 months. Unless there's like some huge financial event that ends up making the Federal Reserve start to buy mortgage-backed securities. Home prices there in 44138 up 4.6%. So, the home price growth is slowing, but home prices are still going up there. So I don't think you got any real danger signs like, gotta sell now, otherwise you're ruined. At least from what I'm seeing in the data. I hope that helped. Nor Shams, how you doing? Good to see you. Greene County, please. Greene County. All right, let's do Greene County. Oops, that's not right. Greene County, Ohio. Inventory down 1.7%. So you have fewer homes just by a smidge than you did last year. Fewer homes on the market. Since 2019, you're down 19, nearly 20%. So fewer homes usually equals higher prices. I'm guessing you don't have a ton of inventory there, though. Oh, you do. Look at that, 284. Oh, you do have some houses on the market. Okay. 284 homes total. So if I go back in time, like look at this, you had 354 in 2019. You had 454 in 2018. You had 520 in 2016. Point is, inventory was dropping before COVID and COVID just wrecked it. I mean, at one point, look at this, you got down to 84 homes on the market during COVID, 97 homes, 84 homes. That's just not good. Not good for affordability. Now, home prices up 2.7% year over year. So not crashing, not exploding like you were back here during 2021, where homes were up 15, 14% year over year. That's obviously unsustainable. 2020, if you look at home prices since 2020, you're up 46%. Man, they just ran up. What about since 2022? Up 13%. Yeah, so it's kind of been a steady climb somewhat. Look at home value here. Yeah, is it an all-time high right now? 296,966. Yeah. Oh, what's this one? Yeah, you're at an all-time high. In other words, right now you're at a record high home price. Like that's startling. Normally that does not happen in October and November. That happens in like, May, June usually. So the fact that prices continue to go up there, and it could be the fact that the I'm seeing this too, unfortunately, and this is sad, but I'm seeing that, anything under like 300, even 350, those markets continue to go because people are like, man, that's cheap for a house. Not saying it's cheap for you or cheap for locals, but if you're looking to move to that area, or you're used to higher home prices, I mean, 250, 300 grand is cheap for a home. So I think that's maybe why prices continue to go up there, because people are like, oh, I'll drive an hour if I can buy a home for 300 grand versus paying 500 or 600. Yeah. I wonder, let me look at, by the way, I can look at rent too. If you want me to look at rent, I can look at rent in a market. Price reduction share. So there are 25% of those listings have price cuts where you are in Greene County. So you do have people cutting prices. That's a quarter of all homes, right? 1 out of every 4 homes has a price cut. The weird thing is, when homes do sell, they're selling for more than they did last year. And you're at an all-time high record price. Wow. And some of this stuff just always surprises me. Oh, you gave me a zip code. 45324. 45324. That's Fairborn, Ohio, right? Near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Okay. So you've got 45 homes on the market. Last year you had 57. Pre-COVID you had 89. So you definitely have fewer homes than you did last year, and you've got fewer homes than you did in 2019. We know that for the county, but for your zip code, you have that too. Let's just look at prices there. Up 1.4% in that zip code. Prices, continue to go up. They continue to rise. Let's look at typical home value. Typical home value, 203,000. It's not an all-time high, is it? Let's see. I mean, it is. Yeah, it is 203,866. So even in that zip code, Nor, you have it's an all-time high price. They're just not coming down yet there. And so in the title of my live was prices tank. There are areas where prices are tanking. I showed you that at the beginning, and we can definitely find them. But so far, what you guys have picked, the prices are not tanking. It's definitely local. There's no doubt. Oh, look at this. 66 El Camino. I've been thinking about buying an older car. That's on my list. So is a Grand National. But man, I like El Caminos. All right, 43566. Let's do that one. 43566. Inventory year over year is flat. So you have the same number of homes you had last year. Active inventory versus 2019, you're down 11% since before COVID, but you only have like 23 homes on the market. So, a few homes added, a few homes subtracted can really move that percentage point. I mean, you do have fewer homes than you had pre-COVID. You go back to 2017, 2016, you definitely had more homes then. Let's look at prices and see how they're doing. Up 4.7%. And if you look at prices since March of 2020, you're up 41%. So I guess the good news is you're not up. Well, I don't know what you're trying to do. If you're selling or what you're doing, or buying. But if you're buying, at least good news that, hey, prices didn't climb up 60%, but they are up 40% in 5 years. Not quite, it's not 10% a year, but it's definitely more growth than normal historically. Let's look at the value. Where is it? Why can't I find it? Oh. All-time high, $351,000. $351,000. 43566. Where is that? Waterville, Ohio. Southwest of Toledo, huh? Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's an all-time high price. Crazy. You guys are picking all these high areas where everything's just up, up, up. Man. Prices continue to climb there. It must be a good area. And look back in 2019, 238 grand, right? 238 grand. The following year went up to 252. After that, 284. Then it went from 284 to 313. So it didn't have like a $50,000 year, but this one year from 2020 to 2021, it went up 30 grand. And I guess it went up 30 grand the next year too. And it's continued just to go up. It's got to be the lack of inventory. It usually is. Wow. That's sobering. No doubt about it. So unfortunately, if you're a buyer, these markets you guys have picked, the prices continue to climb overall. All right, let's do the next one. What do I got? Hope that helped. 66 El Camino. Bexley, what up, people? What's up, Louie? How are you? I'll do this one right now. I like to, I don't know if I've ever really looked at Bexley. It's not going to give me Bexley. Let me see. I need a zip code. $43209. Inventory in Bexley, 43209. You're up 36% year over year. So you definitely have more homes. There's no doubt. Definitely more homes than last year, but you're down 40% compared to 2019. 40%. I mean, people are just not listing homes there in Bexley. They're just like, nah, not going to list. And it makes sense, right? Why would you if you have a low interest rate and a lower home price? It'd be like financial suicide sometimes, depending on your situation anyway. And sometimes you have to sell, because whatever reason, right? Life happens. But if I look at inventory count, what do I got? Only 43 homes in that zip code in Bexley. Before COVID, you had 78 homes, 75 homes, and then 87 homes. And then the bottom fell out. And other reasons why, like Bexley, Grandview, Upper Arlington, inside of Columbus, there's probably no new construction, right? Very hard to find new construction. And so because of that, the only homes that are going to hit the market are existing homes. So you got to wait for somebody to list a house. Very challenging. Really challenging markets. We're seeing the same thing if you look at really probably any area of the country, especially like the Northeast of the US, like up in New Jersey and whatnot, in New York, no new construction at all. And they have like decade low levels of inventory. I guess, you kind of do too, actually. I mean, you're not decade low, but and you are adding a few, but it's going to take a lot more to move the needle probably with prices. But what are prices doing? Well, they're only up 0.6%. So they haven't crashed in Bexley, but they're not exploding anymore either. Let's look at prices in Bexley since 2020. Up 40%. So the run-up hasn't been as high as it was in some other markets. I mean, it's still up 40% though, and I'm sure homes are really expensive there. But let's look since 2022. 8% in the last 3 years, it's come up. All right. Values. 414 grand. Is that an all-time high? It doesn't look like it. No, it's not an all-time high in home prices there. But man, it's close. I don't think there's a lot of homes there for 400 grand. But this is the middle tier. That's how they do it, or the typical value. The 35th to 65th percentile. That's what they're looking at. They're taking out all the high end and all the low end. So yeah, it's like prices are still going up there. They're not exploding like they were before, but man, they're not dropping. They're not dropping. Probably need more inventory, obviously. You'll get sick of me saying that, but that's really the key to it. Hopefully that helped. All right, let's do the next one. Hopefully that helped, Louis. What's up, Louis? Thinking of buying with points. 5.2% APR with 20% down. Oh, okay. My email's in my description. Shoot me an email if you need some help, because if it's in Central Ohio, I can look at the MLS and give you more hyper local info, unless you're already working with a realtor. But if you're not, give me a shout, see if I can help. JRH, what's happening? 45036. Which is London, right? Not London. Oh, Lebanon. My bad. So you've got 55% more homes on the market than you did last year. It's a good amount, right? Big percentage drop, or increase. But look at this. You're down 4% versus pre-COVID, but probably adding inventory right now and just not enough to go past 2019 levels. Let's look at the inventory count. 109 houses on the market right now. If I go back, look, you had 114 homes on the market in 2019. So just a smidge under 2019 levels. If If I go back to 2016, you had 148 homes. So inventory was falling as it was in most areas of the US and Ohio before COVID. And then COVID wrecked the housing market there with inventory. Now you're starting to gain more. As you gain more, prices hopefully, or prices probably will come down because of supply and demand. But let's look at home prices year over year, up 3.3%, which is kind of normal for the real estate market, right? Although if I go back in time in Lebanon, I mean, there's only a few months where you had that type of home price growth. Usually it's above that. So that is trending lower than normal with home prices, but they haven't fallen yet. I'm keep waiting for a place you guys picked that actually falls. But you're up 50%. 50%. Wow. In home prices, 51%. Now, let's look at typical value. What do we got? Wow, it's expensive there. $420,000. And that's an all-time high. That's an all-time high price. I don't mean to laugh. I just think it's like every zip code you guys are picking, it's like all-time high, all-time high. I should have changed my title to Prices Explode. Wow. Yeah, $420,000. All-time high in prices. They show no sense of normalcy in turning around. Man. And what has it done since, let me look, since 2022. Since 2022, up 12%. So it's continued to chug along. Continue to chug along since 2022. It's not like it just happened in 2020. It was like growth, like year after year after year. Well, thanks, JRH. Hopefully that helped. You're looking to buy a property, TH2 in Pickaway County, well, give me a shout. Again, my email's below. Shoot me a note if you want to connect, see if I can help you out at all locally. I go out to Pickaway County. That's where they're building that Andrill, isn't that how you say it? Andrill drone facilities out there in Pickaway County. I was just out there doing that solar video. There's some solar fields out in that market that are like nuts, just thousands of acres. Actually, almost got arrested for filming out there. Jason, just curious about zip code 45133. You got a cool car too. All these people with cool cars. 45133. All right, let's look. Four, 5, 1, 3, 3. Inventory down 18% year over year. Wow. Wowee. That's not, I mean, most areas are up with inventory year over year. Active inventory versus 2019, up just 6%, but you are up. That's surprising. It's almost like all of a sudden, it happened in one of the other zip codes we looked at where inventory was you have more inventory versus 2019, but now you're dropping in the number of homes. Maybe because you don't have that many homes for sale. You got 66 homes right now. Last year you had 80. That's weird. And during COVID, you had like 37, 30, right? So it was like there was a spike right here last year with it came to the number of homes on the market, but this year it's not happening. I wonder why. I wonder what happened. Maybe some new homes came to market. I have no idea, but that's interesting to see that trend. Anyway, you have fewer homes than last year, but you have more since COVID. So that's good news in a way. At least you're not down since COVID in the number of homes for sale. Now let's look at prices. Up 5% year over year. So home prices have not fallen really at all. Really. I mean, the growth is slowing a little bit, but you're still up 5% year over year. Since 2020, where are you? Up 66% since 2020. Holy shnikes. What is going on there? Some of these local housing markets in Ohio, you just got to wonder, like, you know, but will they ever stop growing? 66%. My goodness. What was it since 2022? 17%. Yeah, just the growth is relentless in some of these zip codes you guys are giving me. 209,000. That's why, probably. I mean, you're at an all-time high by far. We may see this for a while in some of these zip codes where there aren't a massive amount of homes for sale, and the home prices are relatively affordable compared to the rest of, most markets out there in the US. The median home price in the US is like 380, right? 390. So if you have a market that's 209, it's pretty inexpensive. Although that doesn't mean all houses are 209. You could definitely spend more, I'm sure. Wow, 209,000. All-time high. Okay, maybe somebody can give me a zip code where prices are dropping. So far, I haven't seen one from you guys. All right, what do we got? Thoughts on raw land pricing? Man, that depends on where you want to go, what you're doing with it, and the type of land, how big, all that stuff. So yeah, it really varies. It really does. It's hard to give you any, and I don't have any like data to show you here on raw land pricing. But if you want to email me, I can get you some data on that depending on where you are. And if I can't help you, I can find somebody who knows raw land where you want to look at, where where in Ohio you want to take a look. But raw land is different than this data. These are just, this is residential, right? If you want to buy like tons of acreage, that's going to make a difference. If you want to buy industrial land, that's obviously going to make a difference. So if you want help, shoot me a note. Right. Hoping to 11 2 limes, hoping to sell in the spring. Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't have any issue. You shouldn't at all, I wouldn't think. I know you're doing some renovations, I think, right? Trying to buy in early 26. Okay. Yeah, and I think I said this earlier, but if you're not in the central Ohio area, if you are in the central Ohio area and you're looking for some help, an agent, a realtor to work with, you can obviously contact me and I can help you directly. But if you are in another area of Ohio or like this land pricing that weeks wanted, then I can refer you to somebody in the state. Like if you're up in Cleveland or you're up down in Cincinnati or you're in Akron, I don't cover that market directly, but I can connect you with a good realtor there. Looking to sell in 45036 and buy in 45458. 45458, huh? Four five four five eight. All right, inventory there is up 66%. Look. In Centerville, in southern Montgomery County, right? That's where you're looking to buy. Yeah, so inventory definitely have more there. That's good news if you're buying. Right? Let's look since 2019. And they're up 5.6% since 2019. How many do you have on the market? 132 homes. So yeah, it looks like they are adding inventory. I would think, not saying that it'll be a perfect time to buy, hard to time the market, but the trend is there's more homes, more choices, lower prices, generally speaking. Generally speaking. But you're gonna have to also really, when you dial it in and you go to buy, you should look at the type of house, the price point, and the area. Because a $800,000 house is not going to behave like a $300,000 house, obviously. So these are kind of general stats, right? Prices there up 3%, nothing insane. At least they are. At least they're not exploding 10% or 15%. home prices since 2020 up 42%. So they have ran up, but it could be worse. Could be that's like 66% increase in home prices, like we just saw. Typical home value, $456,000. Wow, homes are expensive there. That's the middle tier too. That's an all-time high, right? Yeah. Another all-time high. Geez, you guys are picking the winners, that's for sure. But yeah, good luck, man. I mean, and again, I don't cover that market directly in Montgomery County, but I can definitely refer you to somebody if you need help with that. If not, and you have a good realtor, be great. You should use them. And by the way, you don't have to have a realtor to buy a home. Everybody knows that, or to sell, obviously. Well, maybe not everybody knows that, but that's something you should know. Asheville, Ohio. I don't know. Let's look. Asheville. Oops, that's Asheville E. I'm probably gonna need a. I'm gonna need a zip code. So let me look. 43103. Right? 43103. 43103. What do we got? Inventory up 3.9% year over year. So a few more homes on the market versus 2019. You're up 166%. But my guess is you don't have a lot, right? Well, you got 40 homes in that zip code. I mean, wow, look at this. This is way different. Like most areas did not have inventory growth like this. But during COVID, you only had 9 homes on the market. Pre-COVID, you only had 30 homes on the market. Now you've got 40 homes on the market. So you even have more than pre-COVID. It's not a decade high of inventory, but it's dang close to it. Home prices up 1.3% year over year. My guess is because there's more choices, more supply. 52% growth in 5 years in home prices. And the typical home value is $349,000, another all-time high. Man. Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. I mean, prices there just continue to go up. They do. For S and Gs, I'm just going to look at this again. There are markets, I promise. There are zip codes where prices are going down. I mean, here's one 43046, down 3.2%. This one 43777 is down 8%. 43766 is down 17%. Out east here in Ohio, I think there's a little more pain. 43749 down 4.5%. So there are areas where prices are dropping. That's kind of what I was looking at. But you guys have all picked zip codes where prices are still going up like crazy. What's up, Racer? I bought in 2015 for a fair price, and it's basically 2.5 times my purchase price. So I have equity and a low rate. Unfortunately, HOA banned renting in our development. Wow. That's a rug pull, isn't it? It does happen. So you were I see. So you were going to keep your house and then rent it, I guess, but they banned it, so you can't do that. You're going to have to sell, or maybe you don't have to sell. Maybe you live there. I mean, if you have equity and a low interest rate, consider staying. Just consider it. Chopter. ROFL. I don't know what that means. Chopter. Some of these YouTube names are difficult for me. I'm getting old. Joining late, how are projections for Union County and Northwest Franklin County? Yep, rewinded. I did that. I did it earlier in the video. I covered Union County. And yeah, take a look at that. So that one got covered. 43207. What's up, Shayla? Take a look at this. I've actually looked at this one recently, not on this live, but in one of my other videos. So you've got, let me do inventory first of homes for sale. So in 43207, that's what you wanted to see, right? Yeah, 43207. I'll be on for another 10 minutes or so, and then I'll probably take off. You are up 23% in the number of homes year over year. So you have more homes than last year. You're up nearly 50% in the number of homes for sale versus pre-COVID. And that's important to know because that tells you, well, you go back 5 years ago, we got more homes than we did then. And that was kind of when we had a normal market. So if you have more homes than that, probably means prices are softening. Yeah, prices there, home prices are down. So we found one, folks, down 1.3% year over year. They've been down the last few months. And if you look at home prices since March of 2020, you're up 51%. But if you look at home prices in the last 3 years, you're only up 8.2%, which means you got a bunch of that home price growth in 2 years. And if I look at this chart's ugly. What's weird is it dropped right there for a second. But if I go back to 2019 or 2020 rather, homes there, the typical house was $140,000. In 1 year, it went from 140 to 161. Then it went from 161 to 185. Then 185 to 193, 193 to 203, and 203 down to 200. So that growth happened right through here is when all the price growth really exploded in 43207. That's like the OBETS area, right? Now, something that I discovered recently was that like 5% of all the single family homes in Franklin County are owned by a large investor, somebody who owns over 100 houses. So like, you've got a bunch of, you got a good number of large investors that have piled into Central Ohio. And I think the zip code you're talking about is one of the ones where I think a lot of investors own rental properties. And I think a lot of them purchased homes and flips, right? A lot of them purchased flips and rentals way too high. And now they're trying to unload them. I'm not seeing that throughout Ohio, but I am seeing it in Central Ohio in particular, especially in the more affordable areas like 43207. So I don't know if you're buying or selling, but if you're buying, you got to do a lot of inspections, but there probably are some flips inside Columbus where you could, make a great deal. Like you got to buy the right house. You don't want a bad flip, obviously, that'd be horrible. But if you can find something that has been flipped correctly, or maybe just started the flip and they're like, man, I bought this house too high. I can't afford to flip it because of all the rehab needed and all the selling and holding cost. If you're an owner occupant, that could be a good opportunity for you. A really good opportunity. Because a lot of investors are just stupid and they'll just pay way too much for a home. And they think, hey, if I add granite countertops and $8 square foot flooring, I can sell it for higher than what the market bears. And that's not how it works. The market's going to bear what the market's going to bear. But that's what 43207 looks like. Shayla, hopefully that helped. Hemisphere. I get it. Hemisphere. Is that a motorcycle? That's what it looks like. 45714. Active inventory year over year up 26%. So more homes than last year. That's good. Active inventory versus 2019 down just 8%. So you are improving there. Let's look at home prices year over year, up 7%. So home prices are up more than normal there, definitely. You're continuing to see that home price growth. Home prices since 2020 only up 35%. And I just saw something that was really odd. Yeah, look at this. In like April, May, June, summertime, or I guess late spring of 23, home prices were like falling. I mean, something happened there where home prices dropped and then they went right back up. I wonder how many homes you have on the market. Oh, that's why. Only 22 homes right now. So, with just that number of listings, just only 22, it's not going to take a lot to move the needle on pricing, I wouldn't think, because there's not a lot of choices at all. Let me look at prices. Typical value. $179,000. Is it all-time high? 178,000. No, you're right. 179,000. Yeah, it looks like it's an all-time high right now. They did come down for a second. Like from this time period in 22, they came down a little bit, but then they right back up. Another all-time high. Okay, well, I should have changed my title. My bad. Of course, I don't know where you guys are going to ask to look. Wow, that's way down there, right? That's on the river. 45714. I wonder, let me look. Oh, it's in Belpre. Okay. I used to live in Shadyside when I was really young. So that's what's happening down in Belpre, 45714. Prices are going up. Your inventory looks like you are growing inventory, but it's not enough to cause any type of major price pain yet. But you only have a handful of listings, so it wouldn't take a lot to change that percentage. I would just watch active inventory, but prices don't seem like they want to come down. Okay. You should buy my 77 Corvette for $9K. No, then I got to spend my money better than that, right? I got to be more frugal with my cash. I fantasize about a Grand National. 4-3. Didn't I do this one? Oh, Northwest Franklin County. I did 43061, I think. I already did that one. Isn't that the one I did? No, I didn't do this one. So 43061, which is where I know that, I mean, it's right there. You said Northwest Franklin County. 43061 zip code. Oh, it's Ostrander, huh? In Delaware County. Okay. 43061. All right. Inventory down 10% year over year. And since 2019, you're down 10%. So you have fewer homes than last year, fewer homes than 2019. Home prices year over year up 3%. It's kind of normal growth, but it ain't crashing. It ain't falling. Home prices since March of 2020, 50% growth in 5 years. And since the peak, up 10%. So prices continue to advance there. $496,000 is the typical home value. Is that an all-time high? Yes, it is an all-time high. So another all-time high home price. Apologies on the title, folks. I was looking at markets where, zip codes where prices were falling because there are prices falling, but you guys all keep picking places where home prices continue to go up. Wow. And then you had another one, right? 43040. Active inventory, 44% higher than last year. So more inventory versus 2024. Since 2019, down 20%. What's the count look like? 56 homes on the market. And yeah, if you go back in time, you had 70 homes, 60 homes. 2017, you had 66. 2016, you had 86 homes. So you are building inventory. Good if you're looking to buy, but maybe not enough to cause any type of price pain yet. Yeah, I mean, you're still up 2.6%. But the growth in all these markets pretty much is falling. I mean, the home price growth is definitely falling. You're just not growing it as fast as you were before during COVID. Up 47% since 2020. And since 2022, just in 3 years, you're up 10.6%. Again, most of that growth, crazy, but most of that growth happened in just like a year and a half, 2 years. Skyfall, cool name, cool avatar there. Jason, I think we need double-digit rates to bring down prices. I don't know. A double-digit rate would like lock up the housing market even more. We need inventory to bring down prices. We just need inventory. And the scary thing is, Skyfall, is that inventory in Ohio is old. Like our homes are super old. Only like 1.7% of all houses in Ohio were built after 2020, meaning everything's just beat up, right? And if it's cheap, a lot of times it's beat up and needs a roof, windows, wiring, plumbing, foundation work, built in the 30s, 40s, 50s. And we don't have a lot of new homes. I mean, people will, you drive around and you're like, wow, look at that home development there and look at the development there. And you hear narratives that we're overbuilding. We're not, because homes are just old. Across the US, they're old. I think the median age of houses in Ohio is like 50 years old. And in the US, it's like 40. So there's a lot of homes that are just, built in even the 20s and 30s. So I think double-digit interest rates would just, my opinion is, it would just lock up the housing market more and keep people from listing their homes. Like if interest rates went to double digits, no one would list their houses. I mean, the majority of owners have a mortgage rate under 6%, a lot under 5%, many under 4, some even under 3 and 2%. So there would be zero motivation to list a house if rates were double digits. They just would be zero motivation. Nobody would be buying, nobody would be selling. That's why we didn't see a real big price crash when rates skyrocketed. Right in 2022, when rates skyrocketed, we haven't seen an overall price crash in the US because people aren't buying and selling. It did crash transactions. Like the number of sales went down, and we're at like historical low levels of sales. Still really close to that. I mean, barely up year over year in how many homes are actually transacting. So I think higher interest rates just locks up the market and does not bring down prices. It's completely counterintuitive to what most people would think. And even me, like, logically, you're like double digits increase in interest rates is going to, or double digit interest rates is going to, cause home prices to fall because the payment would be a lot higher, right? But unless there's supply that enters the market, that's where the rub is. Right now in the US, we're only up like 6% in the number of homes for sale versus last year. We barely made any ground. It's that's why it's so difficult. Defense contractor and drill. Right, the drone people. Thanks, Todd. And thanks for the comment or the question or whatever, Skyfall. I appreciate it. Mudbug, you're welcome. They keep going up. No one will be able to buy a home by 2030 if they do not already have one. Electric Noodle, cool name. Yeah, it's sad, right? It's really sad. Like I've worked with some first time home buyers this year, and they had to hunt hard. They looked for like 2 years. They were very patient, and they bought something that was older and needed a little bit of work. Uh, but yeah, I it would be nice if home values just went sideways for a while. Even if they went down, would be okay, and let wages catch up. And we could actually experience that electric. Like we could experience home prices not rocketing higher like they have been. They could end up just being like 1% up, and hopefully wages can outpace them over the next few years. But if you think about inflation, some of these areas are actually dropping in home values because the real increase is not matching inflation, right? In North Texas, way overbuilt. Oh yeah. Well, there are areas of the country where they overbuilt, but it's not everywhere. Not at all. Exactly. Builders would stop. We're getting slammed with new builds in Texas. Oh, you're in Texas. Um, yeah, you're right. They would stop building. Yeah, they would. And they have for the most part. Like they've dialed back their building a lot. Probably not where you are. You're not seeing it yet. But in the nation, if you look at the numbers, there's the starts are down and the completions are down because buyers are just like, nah, ain't working. And so the builders aren't going to keep building and get themselves into that situation they were in 2008. I got one more here, Elijah. 43119. We'll do that one and I'll wrap up. Whoops, that's not it. 43119. By the way, where is that? Oh, it's just south of Columbus there, right? Yeah. Inventory year over year up 2.3%. So you have a few more homes than you did last year, but not a ton. Inventory versus 2019 down 11%. How many homes do you have? Inventory count, you got 46. Before COVID, you had 52. So it's not like you're way low, just a few houses. Just a few houses. Home prices year over year up 0.5%. So the growth is definitely slowing. I mean, you could see it, right? Like here, 17%, 16%. Oh, I'm sorry, 18%, and then 15% in 2022. And then look at the growth. It just down, then went up in the summer, right? Then down. Then it went up this spring a little bit, but then since then it's continued to fall. Be interesting if it actually goes negative. But you didn't have a negative year over year price at all since 2012. That's the last time prices fell year over year in that zip code. Now let's look since 2020. Up 52.6%. A lot of growth. A lot of growth in 5 years. Since 2022, up 8%. All that growth happened again in those 2 years. Literally, those 2 years just ruined the housing market for many buyers. Like, look at 2019, $197,000 in 2019. And then it went to 214. And this was the big one. From 2020 to 2021, home prices went up nearly $40,000. Now, if a home is $1 million, a $40,000 increase is nothing. But when a home's 200 grand, a $40,000 increase is ridiculous. Completely unhinged from reality. 252 to 290, another 40 grand. Again, these 2 years. And I hope this helps. I hope this, if you're watching this now or later, I hope this helps you can kind of get a grasp as to how this all transpired over the last 5 years. Because we all go about our lives and we don't pay attention to it as much. But yeah, 40,000 in 1 year, and the next year went up another 40 grand in the typical home price there. Then you only went up 8 grand. Then you only went up, what's that? 4 grand, 3 grand. Then you went up $2,000 year over year. So it's like that home price growth is slowing. That's the good news. The bad news is we got decimated in those couple years. And you're not an all-time high, I don't think. 316. No, your all-time high is 316 back in, well, actually back in January, February of this year. So you're not at an all-time high. You've come down from that, which is good. But it's not like crashing by any means. So I hope that helped. Need more inventory. That's the name of the game, is inventory. And so if you can't, so my advice to buyers when it comes to homes for sale, like if you're waiting on more inventory to come into your area, if you just wait on it and you're not seeing the inventory come, the only other option is, if you can't buy at the prices that are out there, is to go find something off market that needs work, or watch for properties that do need work in the market you want to buy in and go after those. Be willing to take on a project, or be willing again to buy off market. I use this letter. Here. And it basically just says, hey, Jim Smith, I noticed your property at XYZ Street. I'm interested in buying it. I live in the area. Please give me a call at, and I give them my number. So I send this letter to people, and that's a lot of times how I find my investment properties. I've been doing that for years now. Sometimes it works better than others, but and I had a viewer actually send me a note and tell me that they found a property and are in contract, and they used my letter method, where they just looked in the area they wanted to buy, found a house that looked like it needed some love, wrote the owner a letter and said, hey, are you willing to talk to me? And they were like, yeah. Not saying you're going to get the deal of your dreams, but you probably are going to get a much better price buying off market than you will trying to buy something that just hit the market that everybody else is looking at, especially when you only have like a handful of listings. Anyway, you're just going to have to do some stuff others won't do in order to find an opportunity. Or there's going to have to be a lot more homes on the market, or you're going to have to look at another area. So hopefully that helped. Hopefully this all helps. All right. Wow. It's been a great live. I appreciate your interaction. Appreciate you watching. If you got some value out of this, hit the like button, subscribe to the Ohio Housing Nerd. And the other thing, just to remember, I am a local realtor. I'm happy to help. If you need some local real estate help from a licensed agent and you're in the central Ohio market, I can help you directly. If not, I can help you find an agent. Even if it's outside of Ohio, I can help you find an agent that can help you, because real estate is definitely hyper local. And we will do this again. I'll hopefully do more lives coming up. And thanks. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. I'm the Ohio Housing Nerd, and I